Welcome to Story Corner, a place where we share the triumphs, struggles, and lessons learned from everyday people. Join us as we delve into the unique experiences that shape us and inspire us to live our best lives. Subscribe now for new stories.
It has been said that the chance encounter is the least coincidental occurrence in existence, and there might be some truth to that notion. On occasion, destiny brings forth individuals who are entirely dissimilar or even seemingly random, yet they end up playing a significant part in our lives, often without our awareness. In all likelihood, we also fulfill such a role in the lives of others. For at times, a mere utterance through devoid and deliberate intention has the power to profoundly transform an individual. Gina Nomelli works as a paramedic in California. She dreamed about this profession all her life, but 15 years ago the girl immediately after college started working with the police. There was an incident which she remembers well. It was in the fall of 2005 when young Gina just took up her duties as a law enforcement officer and worked for no more than a month. Her task included patrolling the city park. The territory was quite crowded, and at the same time it was rather cold. There were children with parents, students and office workers who came for lunch. However, as she strolled by a small lake on a particular day, she chanced upon a destitute individual. He was sifting through a trash receptacle, searching for anything edible. Although Gina had noticed this unfortunate man on previous occasions, she made the decision to approach him only that day. Recalling the incident, she reminisces about the sunny and warm weather, which perhaps put her in a positive frame of mind, prompting her to engage with him. In a gentle tone, she inquired how long he had been living on the streets. Yet, upon spotting the woman in her uniform, the man reacted by offering profuse apologies. "I'm sorry, I'm already leaving." This was a normal behavior of a person at the sight of law enforcement. But Gina reassured him and said, "You have nothing to fear. I do not mean any harm to you." So little by little they started a conversation, and a little later the homeless person told about himself. As it turned out, the man's name was Will, and for more than 10 years he had been living on the streets. Once he had a job and his own house, and even plans for the future. He wanted to have children, but his sad story began after his beloved wife died of cancer. The man found it immensely challenging to bear the weight of his profound loss and embark upon a fresh chapter in his life. Seeking an escape from the harsh realities, he resorted to a drug usage as a form of protest against the injustices he perceived. Eventually, the predictable pattern unfolded. He lost his job and consequently his home. In due course, he found himself dwelling on the streets, grappling with homelessness. Moved by the homeless man's tale, Gina, influenced by her age, life experience and perhaps a touch of innocence, resolved to take a daring leap of faith. The same evening, the girl brought the man clothes and shoes, which she bought second-hand, and she brought him some hot food which had made him very happy. Gina decided to visit Will the next day, and then she gave him $10 so that he could restore his documents. After all, as she believed with this help he would be able to find work quickly and change his lifestyle. She understood that this was risky because the homeless person could spend the money on drugs and alcohol. Nevertheless, an inner voice whispered to her, hinting that through the act of kindness she could potentially impact his resolve. In addition to aiding him in gaining admission to a healthcare facility catering to the homeless, she persuaded him to pledge that the $10 she offered would be used solely for obtaining necessary documents, rather for any other purpose. Meanwhile, the young woman encountered difficulties in her professional life. Struggling to find common ground with her new colleagues and being alone in the city after relocating from the suburbs, she gradually found herself spending increasingly more time with Will, seated together on a park bench. They could talk for a long time on different topics, and she noticed that the man began to change. He seemed to look like her father, whom she had lost so many years ago. This went on for more than a month. Gina sincerely believed that she was doing the deed, but one day Will did not come to their usual place, and the next day he also did not appear. The girl came several days in anticipation of seeing the man, but he seemed to have disappeared. At the healthcare organization where Gina helped him to enter, she was informed that Will had not appeared for several days. Of course, she felt as she was cheated. Filled with belief in the man's potential for transformation and convinced that she could make a significant difference in his life, she embarked on a path that she hoped would bring about positive change. However, it gradually became evident that reality had a different plan in store. She remained oblivious to whether he was still alive or what had become of him. Not long after Will vanished from her life, she made the decision to resign from the police force, pursuing her long-cherished dream instead. Gina pursued a career as a paramedic and found love, ultimately marrying and relocating to another city. While occasionally relocations of her encounter with the man would surface, they were accompanied by a nostalgic smile, reminiscent of her younger, less experienced self. So this continued for 15 years, and most likely she would have thought of it for the rest of her life that she could not change the poor person's life. But October 25, 2019 was a special day for her. Gina drove to a gas station. While she was paying at the checkout, she suddenly saw a man who was standing behind her and gazing at her intently. When she was about to leave the store, he stood up on her way out. The man was looking directly into Gina's eyes, and then he asked her, "Do you remember me?" He was standing there with tears in his eyes and asked if she remembered him. After contemplating for a brief moment, she had an empathy explaining, "This person is Will." The woman penned it down, realizing that indeed it was Will, and true to his word he had restored his documents that very day. In addition, he secured a job at the construction site. His shadow became packed, preventing him from leaving the site and making appearances at the park during daylight hours for a while. When he finally returned to the park weeks later, the girl had vanished without a trace. Will continued working at his new job for several months and was even promoted, albeit in a different city, which led him to relocate there. A few years later, he met the woman who became his wife, and she helped him to believe in God. Now he goes to church every Sunday. Will regained his happiness. The man tried to find Gina, but every attempt was unsuccessful. Their ways had parted, but what was the most surprising is that in 15 years fate arranged their meeting again at a completely random gas station, which was not far from the city where they first met. On that day, two adults were crying like children, and neither of them were shy to express their emotions because their accidental meeting was not accidental at all. Gina shared this tale on her Facebook page, recounting the events with heartfelt words. She expressed, "Amidst tears, we found ourselves sobbing in the middle of the store until we mustered the courage to ask one of the employees to capture a photo of us. I felt compelled to share this story because kindness holds immense significance. It has the power to transform a person's life. You may never realize it, but Will stands as a testament to that." Gina firmly believes that goodness resides within each the individual and encourages others not to hesitate in displaying it, as it has the potential to save someone's lives one day.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Story Corner. We hope you were inspired by today's story and learned something new. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, keep living life to the fullest.